Okay, to start off we're going to create the body. So in order to do this we grab our 6mm crosslink foam from Rainey's. And then what I'm going to use here is a beaver tail cutter, but I'm going to only use about half of it or so. So as you can see I've done here, what I'll want to do is to take that beaver tail cutter and I want to align the edge of the foam, so this edge right here, with about halfway up the second bump of the body section. So that one, about halfway. And then just like any of your cutters, just push down, wiggle a bit. And there's our body. Okay, now before we move further, we're going to cut a couple of the other things that we need here. So the wings, I've been using this thin wing from Hairline, and it's nice because it's a really soft but somewhat durable thin material, and I've had really good luck with it. So what I do is I'll cut them in the shape of a wing. Now this obviously isn't exactly the match of a caddis or a cicada wing, but it's pretty close. So in order to do that, I just take the thin wing and I'll fold it over. And then what I'll do is I'll grab a either the Tomsu wing cutter, or you can grab a stonefly wing cutter, or even the hopper caddis ant. So I'm just going to go with this hopper caddis ant cutter. This is the largest size. And just folding that up, I want to make sure that I'm aligned pretty evenly there, and then we'll cut that. Now on this one you kind of have to tear around it. And so that's what we're left with, just the two wings here. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll grab an orange Sharpie, and I'm just going to mark up the edges. Just get a scrap piece of paper, and I usually do a lot of these at once, and we'll just hit both sides. So that's our wing. So now the final thing that we're going to cut is, it's basically, I use the pronotum cutter from the Tomsu set, but this is just to build a little bit of bulk up at the kind of the thorax area, because cicadas are beefy bugs. And so what I'll do is I'll grab some 1mm crosslink foam, and I just take the foam and fold it. Then you just take your Tomsu cutter, your pronotum cutter, and just kind of place that on the edge. Now it's not going to cut all the way through. Now if you don't have one of these cutters, you're basically going to be making more of a heart-shaped kind of doohickey here. And I'll show you here. So this is what we end up with, sort of heart-shaped without the little dip, and then I'll kind of snip that there. And again, this is just made to add some bulk to the top, kind of keeps the wings under control and everything in place. So the final step for the body is we're going to cut this down to shape. So you want to take some good scissors. These are rattle bass fangs, and they can cut any material known to man, so foam is not a problem. And I'm just going to go along the sharp edges and taper that back to the tip. These cicadas have kind of sharp pointy butts, so just from that head section, I'm going to taper that down So that's kind of the shape we're looking at there. And then on the front, I'll just cut off some of these sharp edges. All right, now when we get this all cut up, the other nice thing that crosslink is really good for, most foam in general, is that you can really mold it if you give it a little heat. So we're just going to run this over a flame real quick, and then you just really quickly kind of pull and roll and rub the body, and that foam will basically just go right into shape. And the nice thing is that those sharp edges, you can just rub them off. You can see how that body's coming into play. And we'll do the same thing with the head. Now once we've got the body to shape here, we're going to give it some barring, some body segmentations. This isn't as hard as it looks once you get the hang of it. So what I'll do is I'll take the body in my left hand, or right if you're going to be doing this left-handed, and then I usually hold the thread with my thumb so the tag end's coming off the back, and then I'm going to make my first segment right at the tail, just like that. Now one trick you can use is you get a little bit more thread out because you don't want to make this super squished. So I'm going to go ahead and make 5, 6, 7 wraps, and you want to make them so that they're kind of one in front of the other, and this will give the body, the orange segmentations, a little bit more depth. And then when we have that, I can come in here and snip off this tag end if I want. Okay, now that we've got the first one on, we're just going to go to the second one, and you just cross over, and this bad looking side, because it's going to have these crossover points, we'll put that on top. So, or if you really wanted to be crazy, you could just whip finish after each segment, but that'd be kind of wasteful. So there again, we've got the segment done. We're just going to go up and cross over to the next segment. We're going to do 4. Okay, so we've got our 4 segments done, and that body still maintains its taper, and again we've got these crossover points here we're not going to worry about. And then what you can do is you can just whip finish this. You can either do it by hand or you can do a whip finish with a whip finisher. It's probably easier by hand, but just make sure you peel off enough of thread to do this. And then that last drop, I just let I'll pull this away from the table, but I'm letting the whip finisher drop. And it's whip finished. Now the important thing, notice we've got the little striations there, but if you turn it over to the side that's going to be down, that's a pretty nice little segmented cicada body right there. And then one little other thing that I'll do, where I've cut and started this, I'm going to put a little bit of super glue, because there'll be times where if you didn't get the thread on just tight enough, it will come off. So we're just going to get a little bit of super glue and get these in there a little bit more securely. Usually one small drop of this thin super glue on each little node is plenty. Okay, once we've got the body tied up, then super glue's dried. We need to slit the foam on the good side. That's the side without the little cross threads. And so to do that, you just go up right down the center, and I want to go kind of saw right in the center into the foam about 3/4 of the way up through, without cutting it all the way, of course, and then down to just before the thread. So about like that. So now that I've split that, we're going to dress the hook here with some thread. This is Vivas 10-aught in orange. It's not as bright as like a fluorescent fire orange or one of those. And I'll usually do about 2 laps up. and then you want to come back to just about the hook point. And then what I like to do is just do a trial run. So you split your thread, your foam, and then you want to slide your body onto the hook here. And that'll just help you get an idea as to how it's going to fit. Okay, now you want to make sure your thread is right where the body's segment is going to be, right above it. That's where we're going to tie this off. And we're going to super glue this. Okay, take a little bit of super glue, run that over the thread wraps here. Not too much. And then you can use a little stick to kind of even that out. And then relatively quickly you want to grab your foam body and put that right on top, and then we're going to start to wrap it immediately. You want to check to make sure that it's even. And then as it's turned upside down, I'm going to squeeze. You got that crack there. There should be enough super glue on there to close that up. If not, add more, but you squeeze it until it's dry. Okay, once it's dry, we'll just throw a few more wraps on there. And just kind of make sure that it's not going to turn on you. It's on there pretty tight. Okay, now we're going to take those wings that we cut, and you want the orange side down. And I like the wings to be splayed out a little bit because the cicadas don't land on the water like they're just sitting on a tree waiting. So one of the reasons I keep them together like that is because when you put them on here, it works a little better when you tie them in. So we can just kind of have them splayed out, something like that. It doesn't have to be super accurate. And we'll just tie that right in on the top. So it's going to look like that. They're overlapped a little bit, no biggie. Now for the upper wing, we're going to use some of this Parapost wing material. It is treated, so this stuff floats really well, and it also takes floatant, especially Loon Loxa. So I'm going to grab and cut one strip like that, and then we'll fold it over. So this is how much we'll use. And then I like to grab my fur comb and just brush these fibers out so they're not all matted together. And I want that to be just about even with the other wings. Maybe a little shorter. And now I'll take some of the fluorescent orange, just one strip of that. I don't need to double it over. And about 1/2 to 3/4 of the length of the other wing. This is just going to help me see it a little better. Okay, next I like to tie in the pronotum, or well, it's not a pronotum, whatever the little feature is on the back to help it get a little bulk. And I'm going to pull that back over the wings. It helps to kind of keep them in control here. And then just enough on the front to cover up the tie-in point. Now the other thing I like to do with it, even though it's 1mm, run it under the lighter, and then I kind of like to give it a squish. It helps taper it back. Okay, we'll bring this in here, just about 3/4 of the way up the foam piece. And then we're just going to tie that down like so. Okay, now we'll take some orange speckled centipede legs, and you need one piece that's about double the length of the body. That's all you need, just one piece. You don't need to cut it yet. We'll tie it with 2 wraps at about 1/4 point. Flip it around, 2 more wraps, And then we can adjust down. Cicada legs are down towards the underneath of the body, not so much on the sides. And you want these down beneath your foam tie-in anyways. And then we can snip those. And then we just whip finish this. Now for the last little step, we're just going to add some eyes. So what I've done is I've melted some 40-pound mono like that, and I just added some orange Sharpie to it. So I just take a lighter, melt it, add some Sharpie, and then it's just 2 pieces, so we're going to do one at a time. And so on the corner here, we'll take a bodkin and just kind of ream out the eye socket. Do these one at a time. Then we're going to grab our eye, and I like to just, if I can, shove this down into the nozzle. Get some on there, and then we put that in the socket. And you just push that the rest of the way in. Now, not all cicadas have the orange eyes. Some are black, so you can do black or whatever. And then we just do the same to the other side. And then we got the other one in there. And there we go. And just some notes on the final version of this. We used to put deer or elk hair for the wing back here, and then a little indicator up here. What I found is that as I got to fishing it more, the deer hair would become, or the elk would become saturated with water, and then that, in addition to the little foam indicator that was sticking up, would often make it flip sideways. At least wouldn't flip upside down. You know, maybe 2 out of 10 casts. It wasn't bad, but then I went to a more lighter weight wing up here with nothing in the front. That way the center of mass is kind of centered to offset this hook, or the hook offsets this. And so this will float a lot better. And you can treat this. This will, it's got watershed, so you couple of false casts and it's as dry as it can be. So this works well. It's a great cicada pattern.